The story begins as our protagonist Ganta is met by a school crush Mimi. He informs her that he is doing some research on their upcoming prison tour field trip, which is supposedly like an amusement park. Their mutual friend Yamakatsu joins the conversation, lamenting the fact that the prison is in Tokyo, which they haven't been to in 10 years. He goes on to complain how people can only think about something called the red hole when they hear Tokyo. Mimi reminds them that there are only 2 weeks till entrance exams and they should just try to make the best of it. As class begins, Ganta begins to hear a familiar song that prompts him to look out the window to see that someone is floating in the sky. This menacing-looking figure unleashes an attack that does massive damage to the room. Moments later, Ganta wakes up to find that all his classmates have been dismembered, including Mimi, whose head is in the hand of the mystery person. Ganta begs for mercy as the person sends a projectile into his chest. He wakes up in a hospital and is told by detectives that he must be taken in for questioning. The news reports that of the 30 middle schoolers in the classroom, only one person survived. Ganta is informed that he has been charged with the murders as a court-appointed attorney, Mr. Tamaki, arrives. Ganta pleads his innocence, attempting to tell them about the man in red. He thinks of using the projectile as proof, but it's gone. Mr. Tamaki assures him he will do everything he can to win his case, but later we see that a judge has found him guilty. Ganta is in total disbelief and breaks free in a panic, but the fathers of his murdered friends take the opportunity to beat him down. Ganta says that he would never do those things to his friends, and Mimi's father tells him to never say her name again. A news report reveals hidden camera footage showing Ganta's clear and brutal confession, where he boasts about the murders he committed. Mimi's father is furious that Ganta would do this even after they took him in as family for the last 10 years. Mr. Tamaki apologizes for not realizing someone had recorded them and got into fears he must be in some kind of nightmare. We then get a glimpse of a girl atop an attraction at the Dead Man Wonderland as she sings a song, only stopping once she realizes that Ganta has finally arrived. It is explained that Dead Man Wonderland was built at the epicenter of the sinkhole that engulfed Tokyo 10 years ago, referred to as the Red Hole. The chief warden Makina explains that Dead Man Wonderland is the first ever privately owned corrections facility. Inmates pay their debt to society by performing for tourists, and the institution thrives on the money they make. She goes on to explain how the collars around their necks are for more than tagging and tracking, but is interrupted when a guy runs into Ganta. He apologizes, but Maki now accuses the guy of stealing goods. He says that he is actually responsible for them, but she doesn't care and attacks him anyway. Later we see Mr. Tamaki tell her that he doesn't want her scaring the new inmates, lamenting the fact she didn't go over death row regulations. She says that Ganta was the only short-timer and that his accident is coming up soon anyway. She wonders what he is antsy about, and he compares Ganta to a present, as all he wants is to get at what he knows is inside. Later, Ganta has memories of his friends and of that horrendous day. He can't handle it and asks for someone to kill him. Just then a girl appears that makes him think of Mimi. She wants to grant his wish but believes him to be a liar since he dodges her attacks. She listens to his heart and knows that it is one that does not want to die. She says that they have met before and her name is Shiro. Ganta says that friends don't try to kill each other, and she is surprised to hear this from the person accused of doing just that. They are approached by a group of men that taunt Ganta about his crimes, asking about how much he enjoyed killing those close to him. Shiro comes to his defense, repeating what Ganta said about never intentionally hurting those he cares about. The group of men begin to beat them down. We get a glimpse of Tamaki as he reads Ganta's file, claiming how fortunate he is to have seen the man in red and actually survive. The way he sees it, Ganta will either get beat into the dirt and perish or fight back and become his new shiny plaything. As Ganta gets beat, a bomb goes off, causing a large structure to come falling towards him. Ganta gets up off the ground, proclaiming that he doesn't want to die there. What he wants is to clear his name, but more importantly make the man in red pay for what he has done to him, his friends and Mimi. Ganta seems to activate the object lodged in his chest in order to harness a power that destroys the structure. Later we see that a prisoner has taken a hostage and demands candy. Makina checks the information on his collar that reveals the man doesn't have much time anyway. The man continues to beg, but it is too late. The collar runs out of time and kills the prisoner. We then see as several prisoners eat candy as a way to add time onto their collars. Ganta wonders how he was able to survive and goes to check on Shiro to find that she is unharmed. She recommends they eat together from now on and claims them to be friends forever. Later Makina investigates Granny video of how Ganta survived but can't interpret it. She then thinks back to how Tamaki said that they are no longer planning for Ganta to have an accident, as they want to see how he does on his own. At the nurse's office, the nurse informs Ganta that he should have had a piece of candy in his bag and realizes that it must have fallen out when he was bumped. The car guy named Yo just so happens to be there as well and says he is fine since Makina only gave him a flesh wound. Shiro appears out of the ceiling begging to play with Ganta and recommending they enter something called the dog race as a team. Yo explains that the race is a marathon obstacle course with cast points as the prize. He is disappointed to hear that Ganta hasn't read the rule book yet and doesn't know what cast points are. Yo says that they are the prison's form of currency and that nothing is considered contraband since you can buy anything including cigarettes, alcohol and sentence reductions with enough cast points. Ganta says he is no athlete but decides to join anyway. He runs into Machina and she is surprised to hear that he has entered the race. She assumes this means he has read the rule book and he lies saying he memorized it elsewhere. We see that Yo reports to Tamaki about Ganta entering the race. In the men's locker room, Ganta and Yo have a formal introduction. Their conversation is interrupted when the intimidating Kozuji enters. He is known as the Pulverizer and punishes Ganta for mispronouncing his name. Kozuji becomes upset that no one laughs and attempts again, this time attacking Yo. He explains that too many people have been dropping out of the race and he demands no one else does so that the race isn't cancelled. He sends a message to not even think of winning his cast points by beating on someone, and Ganta says to himself that they are animals. Kozuji hears, though, threatening his life if he doesn't give him a smile. Ganta has a thought of defending himself but then realizes if he wants to stay alive he must fall in line. He smiles for Kozuji but thinks to himself how he is a coward. Shiro brings Ganta a snack and Kozuji goes to attack her but is stopped by Machina. He hits on her and she tells him to make his move whenever he wants to die. Before the race begins, Ganta has a memory of when he read the rule book. It says that unless inmates want to succumb to poison they must ingest candy every 3 days. The candy temporarily counteracts the constant stream of poison being pumped into their necks. It also says that they cost 100,000 casts apiece, the exact amount for winning the dog race. Tamaki requested the danger level of the race be ramped up to max. His assistant worries about the children watching in the audience and he says to simply tell everyone it is only theatrics. As the race begins, Ganta is immediately hit with just how dangerous the race actually is as people are getting hurt. The audience admire their amazing special effects, thinking it's not real. Some say even if it was they don't care since they are all criminals. Ganta goes on to barely make it through the deadly obstacles that Shiro simply enjoys the experience. For one obstacle we see that Kozuji uses his own men as a shield. Ganta stops for a moment thinking to himself how he has always followed the rules and how it has gotten him nothing. The pair pass through more obstacles, eventually reaching the final one, a battle royale between them and Kozuji to get the dead man's ball. Ganta manages to get the ball and the announcer explains the rules. The person standing on the final tile with the ball will be announced the winner. Ganta manages to avoid being impaled while also evading capture by Kozuji. Kozuji wants to know why he is competing so hard considering he is on death row anyway. Ganta proclaims his innocence but Kozuji doesn't believe him, saying that he knows a murderer when he sees one and threatens his life if he doesn't give up the ball. Finally, Ganta defends himself by hitting Kozuji with the ball and saying to never call him a murderer. The ball falls into the hands of Shiro and in his rage Ganta says that Kozuji, the whole place and the rules can go do something vulgar to themselves. Just then the tile Shiro is standing on falls and the one Kozuji is on does as well, making him fall to his death. Ganta runs towards Shiro to find her hanging off another tile. He notices that she has taken lots of damage and realizes that it was due to her protecting him throughout the entire course. The tile falls and she throws Ganta the ball so he can win the race. Ganta reaches out and grabs Shiro instead before she falls to her death. She is concerned that he didn't get the ball but he says it doesn't matter since they still get to eat together. There is no winner but Ganta says he doesn't care about the candy anymore even if the next day will be his last. Elsewhere, Tamaki gets scolded for the deaths caused by the dog race. He tells the members of the group to remember who his father put in charge of the prison and tells them that keeping their dirty little secret there for them isn't cheap. Later, Ganta and Shiro eat together and she asks that they eat their snacks together all the time. However, Ganta knows that today is the day he dies. Yo listens in on some guys talking about how deadly the race was and he has a hunch that it has something to do with Ganta. In his cell, Ganta writes to Mimi's father proclaiming his innocence once again and blurting out that he just wants to live. Yo arrives to reveal that the two are cellmates and he has a present for him. Yo hands him a candy and says that it was his fault for losing his first one so he wanted to make it right. Yo then thinks back to how he made an agreement with Tamaki to keep an eye on Ganta in exchange for cast points. Meanwhile, Tamaki receives a call telling him that the secret system is offline and that the bird has flown the coop. He arrives at the facility and demands it be fixed immediately. Outside, Yo can't believe Ganta is possible of the things he is accused of and Ganta has a fond memory of his old friends. The fond memory turns into a horrible one as the object in his chest begins to activate. He turns to see that the red man has arrived and watches as he unleashes a brutal attack on everyone. Ganta can hardly control his rage and proclaims that he won't allow Yo and Shiro to be murdered by the red man. He begins to use his power and Tamaki watches, commenting that Ganta is summoning his branch. Ganta can only speak of how he hates the Red Man and how much he wants him to rot as he unleashes an attack of his own. However, the Red Man is not actually harmed and just laughs it off. Ganta faints as we see that Tamaki celebrates the christening of a brand new member, claiming this to be the true face of Dead Man Wonderland. Later, Ganta wakes to find Shiro by his side apologizing for eating all his snacks. Ganta can't understand how he did what he did and overhears a group of men discussing how they had seen the Red Man before. He also hears that he is in permanent solitary lockdown in the G block. Now knowing where he is, Ganta vows to come after him as soon as he is better. Tamaki is blaming terrorists for the incident, but Makina knows he is hiding something involving Ganta. She has a feeling that he has some kind of high-tech weapon and wants him in chains within the hour. She puts the prison in lockdown and releases a crowd control robot. It is a danger to everyone, but she fears Ganta more. In Tamaki's office, Yo wants answers, but he only tells him to keep Ganta safe, offering more cast. Ganta and Shiro run into a dead end on their way to Jibak and are found by Yo. He recommends that he report to Makina so that he doesn't get harmed. Ganta says he can't, explaining that Yo has now seen that the Red Man is real and should now know that he was actually the one to kill all his friends. Yo reveals that there is no G block, but Shiro seems to know something. Ganta rushes for answers only to see that Shiro is upset about something. The robot arrives and is approaching quickly, but Shiro manages to find a way out. She brings them to the G block and the robot reappears with a powerful attack. We see that Makina has lost her signal, revealing yet another secret area that is being kept hidden from her. Ganta then apologizes for dragging Shiro and Yo down there with him. The robot prepares his attack, but Shiro takes it out. She proclaims Ganta is a stupid head, revealing she was upset because he said that all his friends had been killed and that eating all his snacks is not a good reason to not be friends anymore. Her rant is interrupted by the robot as it prepares to kill her. Ganta wants to use his abilities to save her, but he is unable to. Out of nowhere, an attack similar to Ganta saves Shiro moments before she is killed, and they look to see that it is the man imprisoned in the G block.